I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor Lisa?
Yes, let's pray. Lord, we have just passed a season of thanksgiving and gratitude and reminder of how passionate people are about freedom. We give thanks not only for all that we have in this day, but for those who traveled across the ocean in perilous situations, those who have fought and those who have died to give that freedom, bring that freedom as a symbol of this land that we live in. So Lord God, continue to make us grateful for all that we have. It might be a little, it might be a lot, but we trust that it is from your hand, and for that we give you thanks and praise. Lord, I ask a blessing upon our leaders in this village board and upon all who are here, that truly we would seek passionately freedom from crime and freedom from destructive behavior in our community, freedom from fear for those who are residents of this community. I pray for a cooperation and an upbuilding here in this evening during this meeting, so that Walton might be a place that we can say we are grateful for. So be with each person here as they give of their time and their talents to see that our community is a better community by their leadership and by the grace of God. We pray this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. We'll get started. We need to have a motion to have open our hearing, public hearing.
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Walton, Delaware County, New York, at the Village Hall, 21 North Street, on the first day of December 2014, at 6 p.m. to hear public opinion regarding the environmental review process for the biogas project at the wastewater treatment plant located at 54 South Street.
Okay. Are there any questions from anybody in the audience? Anything they want to know about, anything they want to talk about?
Will this have an effect on traffic, roads, highways? Any effect on cost of operation of the sewer plant?
Yeah, it'll affect the cost of the sewer plant. It's going to lower it. There might be, there will be slightly a little bit more traffic, maybe, for some of the trucks that are hauling come in. Other than that, I can't think of anything else. Anyone have any other questions? Anyone on the board want to say anything or discuss anything? Does everybody understand what we're doing with this waste anaerobic digester? Anybody have any questions about it at all? Okay.
This will be a $6.5 million investment.
Correct.
We have to pre-borrow the money for
Yes.
that to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And reimbursement will come from who?
Well, first we're going to get some. Well, we're going to get some grant money from NYSERDA. We're looking for grant money from. Can help me out with this one. The governor's office, right? Governor's office, and we're also looking to get money from the IDA. And the money that is going to be cost us for it, what we don't get in grants and what money we have to pay back is going to come on the revenue we get from the hauling of the way that's coming in. So it's not going to be any increase to the taxpayer, no cost to the taxpayer whatsoever.
In addition to that, we'll probably have less sludge going out of the facilities, so we won't have as much hauling to pay for. Let's save money there.
As you know, we talked before, we're going to have a lot, we're going to save a lot from that. We're going to have biogas, we're going to run pipelines hopefully up to the school, we're going to be able to give the heating at probably a third the cost of what they're paying now. We're gonna set up biogas, hopefully the buses, we're gonna convert them so that they can buy the gas from us. And they're paying like $4 a gallon now. When we do it, it'll be a little bit over $1, so it's a tremendous saving that way. And the money that we get from the school, we're gonna go into our general fund, so that'll help us with our budgets, doing projects in the village. So it's pretty much a win for everybody that's involved in this program. The people that are hauling to us are saving, because a lot of them are going up to Utica now, because there's no place around here they can do the way. So they're gonna be saving half the money for their hauling.
So there'll definitely be more traffic as far as.
There'll be some more
wear and tear
trucks,
on
but
the roads.
there'll be some more trucks on the road, but we'll take care of that in the budget. If we need to do anything, we'll take care of that too. Kraft is gonna be a big a recipient of that, which happens to be our biggest employer in the village. We're gonna look to run pipes into the Kraft, so they're gonna be able to heat some of the big machines. They're gonna change around to be used for gas. So they'll save a lot, and their way, we'll take their way. They're paying $500,000 now to transfer their way out someplace else, so they're gonna save quite a lot of money too. So it will hopefully keep them more involved in the village and more of a reason to stay.
Is this a similar process to what the county did with the cell up there when they tried to cap that and utilize the gas off of that?
I don't think, it's a whole different process. I mean,
I'm not familiar with the county.
it's a different type of process. I mean, the end result, supposedly, it should be they're trying to create gas as well. But ours it's a direct effect on
Produced
everything.
by the process that you're
Yeah,
doing,
yeah.
not.
Not by
It's not a
No.
consequence of the, yeah.
Right,
No,
okay.
no.
County was trying to collect
Okay.
gas coming out.
The other great thing about this, in addition to the substantial dollars it's gonna generate, more often than not, if not always, when there's either a savings or net funds generated over at the wastewater treatment plant, by law, it has to stay right there. That's why the wastewater treatment plant's budget is always in pretty good shape all year long. It doesn't come into there's very little we can do besides taxes that come into the general fund. And for the first time in quite a while, there's gonna be I don't mean 1,000, I mean like tens of thousands of dollars and then some into the general fund from this. So
It should be hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're gonna be really good. And let's call it the way it is. I mean, it's a good project. And like I said, if the one effect that we have, that the roads need to be done quicker because there's more traffic, then that's very inconsequential compared to what we're paying.
As long as all your funding comes through from your grants from this and this and this.
And if it didn't come in from this and this and this, we would still have enough money to make up payment every month on the thing.
It's almost lucrative. I mean, so far, Jim, they've been trying to be conservative, just so we don't go over the top with expectations. And there's not really, other than that, there's not a good reason to be conservative. It's going to be lucrative for the village, it really is. It's like,
We didn't do the project in anticipation that the only way we're gonna do the project is because we're gonna get grant money for it. We know we will, but we're not basing it solely on getting our grant money.
The end result is what you're looking at, is
Yeah.
the income from it.
Yeah. With the grant money, it just means we'll pay it off sooner and we'll have more money for ourselves afterwards. So it's probably the best project the village has had in a very, very long time, and it's a green project, and it's just, sometimes they say, when it's too good to be true, it's not, it really isn't, but this one is one of those times that it really is a good project. And we've looked at every angle to try and find out if there's anything negative at all about it.
and with the funds coming to the general fund, it's going to help, obviously, with our tax base, and as far as funds we need to generate. And even to the, in the broader sense, if in fact, and it's their decision to make, the school decides to tie in with this system that we've got and this product that we have, it's going to help the school tax base as well, because it'll be money they hadn't expected, savings that they, money they won't need to spend because the fuel's going to be so much cheaper, the heat will be so much cheaper, et cetera, et cetera. They're looking at that now.
And everybody needs to keep in mind that it's a 1.5 to 2 year project.
Right.
Even though we're starting it now, it probably won't be completed in
216.
2016, something like that. If we can get it early, we will, but just to play it safe. But it's something good to look forward to, that we know there is some light further down the road there. Okay, anyone else have anything they'd like to ask, or questions or comments? If not, then need to close.
So moved.
I move we close.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we take a vote. Now we need a motion.
Well, we need
Oh,
to
go ahead,
declare
sorry.
ourselves as lead agency.
Yep, we're the lead.
So I need a motion for that.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then we need to make a motion, that, the wastewater treatment plant biogas project will have no significant impacts on the environment. So we need a motion for that too.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And that's that.
With that? Okay. Okay, item number 2, the abstracts. Everybody's had a chance to take a look at the abstracts.
Jody, I had one question. There was an expense there for the cell tower?
No, I think, we used to break out when we paid Dave Merzick, when we were doing the litigation for the cell tower.
Oh,
We're
okay.
using that line as something else, and Misty probably just didn't get it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the abstracts as presented.
Second?
Second the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Department heads. Chief?
Chief, what is MHL 9.41/9.45?
That's just a mental health law arrest.
Oh, mental health,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
We could change that to a little more. That's the disadvantage, I guess, of having the computer do a lot of stuff, is sometimes it doesn't use layman terms.
I think I can remember that.
Like maybe print you a guide or a key or something.
And then transports are all taking, going to, it says transports 10.
Various transports, either, sometimes we'll do transports from the hospital, taking somebody home if it's in the middle of the night, they need a ride, something like that. That's just general transports, it's not really broken down, but we just like to keep track of how many people ride in the car, basically.
Good.
The OP service and OP violation.
Border protection.
Is larceny just like a theft?
Larceny is a pretty broad term. That's exactly what it is. The basic definition of larceny is stealing somebody's property, yeah. I'll try and get these changed a little bit easier for you, although it's good to discuss them, I guess, because if you have, gives us something to talk about, right? Otherwise, you don't need me. Job security. I don't know if you have any questions on it. The activity generally was down a little bit as far as the number of calls. Summons were down a little bit. Parking tickets were up because of that, the parking in effect November 1st. Generally down. Again, domestics are a big percentage of what we end up going to. Obviously, we had a big call the other night here in the village. We're still working on that. Is there any question about the activity or specifically? Or? Okay.
Cash escort, you don't do cash, I mean, I know you would if you were at, but you don't, nobody asks you to do cash escort.
That's just hit or miss whether we do it. You know, it's we don't necessarily carry the cash. We used to actually go to the bank. The people would get in the
Well, you
car, we'd
did.
take them to the bank. Yeah, we used to do that way back. We don't get asked to do that as much anymore.
Wow,
So it's
that's
just kind of
almost,
hit or miss.
I would think it'd be more often now instead of less, but.
I mean, we certainly would do what we get requested to do.
Yeah.
There are there are some times that we go and we'll stand by ATMs or something like that as they're changing money, that type thing, but we're not actually carrying anything at that point, so. I can update you a little bit on the academy again. The graduation's next week, Monday. Those two have been around weekends, doing great. They've been a big help with this big case. They came back from the academy on Friday, just as it was occurring downtown here, and we were able to use them for running and getting different videos and doing different relays. So they'll graduate on the 8th. The initial class that I had talked about sending Chris Irwin to this week about the field training officer school, I spoke with the mayor earlier about it, as well as Teresa, about we're not going to actually send him this week, just because of everything going on here. We just kind of need him in town this week. We've got obviously some stuff going on. So what happened was I ended up calling Albany. They're going to kind of give us a little bit of a reprieve, kind of a waiver that he can do it, because the law that you have to have this official school doesn't really start till January. These guys are going to run into January. They just said, we'll just send him to the next class that's available to do that. I kind of explained the whole situation to him, and they said, he's obviously capable of training, and we'll use some of the part-time guys that are field training officers through the sheriff's department. We'll use them as well to train these guys. So just by him not going this week, it's not really going to affect this time. If we want to do something down the road, we're definitely going to have to do it. So I would recommend, and I'll get back to you when the next school comes up, and hopefully the village will be a lot quieter at that point, and we could send them at that point.
Will that be a short notice thing? Do you need approval now, or will you know?
No, we'll know. We'll know. Yep, I'll have a pretty good heads up of what we want to do with that. A couple other things. We had talked about just some logistics at the police station as far as, and I don't know if we had discussed this previously, just about the parking and we're trying to get the office more up front, keep the building lit a little bit better. So that's something we're still working on. There's some logistics that we're going to get fixed this week, matter of fact. And so that you should see that start happening. I think we had discussed that as far as the setup at the police station. So. One other thing, the body cameras, which we had talked about, I applied for a small online grant, so I kind of want to see how that's going to come along. So I'll be more in line to give you more information about that as we go. I want to see bottom line what it's going to cost us to do it, but I am kind of committed to getting that done as soon as possible. So I'll keep you posted with that.
Would there be like a camera they pass along from shift to shift, or would they be assigned every camera to a person?
Well, my thought is, depending on price and where we want to go, I mean, I would like to have at least one at every scene. So if you have 3 guys there, you don't necessarily need to have 3. So I would like to see at least get 1 in each car, so if 2 cars are responding. So I would say a minimum of 2 and try and increase that. And it would be just past shift to shift. Yep. It's kind of the direction that everybody's going now, department-wise. They used to put them all in the cars, but they're finding that a lot of the contacts are away from the car where it may not line up perfectly. So these are just little boxes that the officers wear. You'll see a lot more of that in the news now, because actually there was something today about Obama is getting on board where he's wanting departments all over the country to do that because of the Ferguson situation out there. So.
My understanding from what I've read is more often it validates exactly what the police said more often than that, and it's almost to their benefit to be wearing them.
Absolutely, it absolutely is. And a big thing which they don't talk about too much with it is it's a training aid. I mean, even if you have something that doesn't become a huge issue, as a supervisor, you can review how the officers handle that and what could be changed, and officer safety can come into play. You see them going up a dark alley or something where maybe they should have reconsidered that. You can use that as a training aid every call, which is huge. That'd be a great asset. So.
What's the capacity? How many minutes or hours?
All different. Most of them you can get several hours, 10 hours.
Oh.
Yeah, and they go on and off. They don't just run the whole time. So you can turn them on when you get out, or when the overhead lights come on, you can turn them on, that type thing. So, and that would be all procedures that we would make it work with whatever equipment we end up having. So, but again, I mean, just because I don't have the information at this meeting, it's a commitment. We're gonna do that. So we'll make that happen.
Right.
We talked about Bluetooth capability.
Right. I found some pretty cheap ones. I didn't bring you the printouts because it's going to be so cheap that I don't know if we need a board approval to do it, to be honest with you. I think we can do it, probably 2 of them for less than $50. So.
Really?
Yep.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Excellent.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for the chief?
Good luck.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
there's gonna be at least 2 or 3 of us that are gonna go down to the academy when the guys graduate to show them support, so I thought that would be a good idea too, so everybody knows.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that everybody, we had talked about it, but everybody obviously was invited to that.
Yeah, I mentioned it to everybody, so there'll be at least a few of us, 2 or 3 of us going down. Bill Brown?
I'm all set, actually. You guys went through my couple
Oh, okay, that was good.
spiels.
You too, John? John Moffett, come on.
For the most part, you did go through it.
Pretty much everything at the treatment plant. We had one small effluent violation of chlorine, just through demand. Other than that, everything was fine at the plant for November. Sunrise Family Farms flows down again considerably, just so you know.
Closed down?
No, their flows are down
Oh,
considerably. You would think during this time of year that they would be actually higher for dairy, but they're not. They're down quite a bit. The only other issues we need to bring up right now, we have sludge hauling bids and chemical bids that we need to get out prior to January. And Bill, you picked out December 19th, I believe, as a date due. Yep, that opening date for that.
Okay, so what do we need to do on that?
I need a motion.
Yep.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the only, Andy put down, he needs 6 first stage sand lifts, air lifts for the sand filters. That's $4,600. That's yearly maintenance. Gets them every year. Rotates first stage and second stage. This year he's doing the first stage.
Is that all village cost?
No, it's a DEP
DP, oh, okay.
cost. Yeah.
Okay, so that's in the budget.
You don't need an action?
No, you don't need an action for that one. As far as the MBT project, there's begun clean water startup today. So possibly by the end of the week, we will start moving sludge into the tanks. They gave us a tentative date of December 8th for a startup on that equipment. And then we did receive the screw press report, and it's being reviewed right now by Mark Suazo. So we'll know further for the next meeting how we're going to move ahead.
Could you just, I mean, I know we have a discussion about it, but could you just tell, so the public know, when we do the MBT project, what it means is like a savings, and I mean, because we keep saying these acronyms to everybody, MBT press and screw press,
Yeah.
and I don't think sometimes the average person doesn't know. So maybe the MBT, you could just
Okay.
touch on it a little bit.
An MBT is a membrane biothickener, and it's basically like a screening process where it draws the water through the sludge and thickening the sludge, hopefully by half, reducing by half. We're going to say a third at this point, but so that again will save on sludge hauling to the landfill, tipping fees, and reduce traffic, which was a concern before, but
Right.
yeah, it's basically what it is.
It just is adding up to the big project with the Rolling Digest. So between this, you're gonna save a certain percentage, 8 or 9%. Then when we get the screw press takes the sludge and compresses it really tight. And what it does, by the time it comes out of there, weighs a lot less, it's a lot drier. We can put a lot more in when we haul it up to so it's less tipping fees, less hauling fees. And we'll save on energy that way also with the screw press.
And
then
the
we're getting-
landfill is thrilled because it's less volume being given to them as far as the capacity of the landfill.
Yeah, Walton sends to the landfill approximately the same amount of sludge as the other 11 communities combined in the county.
Yeah.
And it's due to the dairy process, but
Good craft.
Yeah.
So they're always very careful about how much we bring up. So we're doing these other projects, we're making them very happy because it gives them more room for other things. So there's not always Walton sludges going up there. So
Right.
and then when we do the MBT, when we do our anaerobic digester, it's even gonna be a lot less, and you're gonna use it alternative energy, so it's, even the landfill is gonna be happy with it, so it's good all around. So. Good, thank you.
Okay, that's it.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Steve?
Good evening.
Hi, Steve.
Everybody's got my report.
Yes, thank you.
Kind of a typical November. Things are slowing down in the building world. Any questions on that before I continue?
You know, the property I've sent you the email about.
Yep.
Is there any point at which it might, on the surface, seem like there's an aesthetic issue with the building, the peeling paint, or, you know, whatever? Is there a line that gets crossed where, given our existing, the village's existing codes, where enough's enough, or does it really need to be a safety hazard? And I know I'm gonna run this into the ground.
Yeah. Any house in the village, you could probably address in terms of code issues. From my standpoint, if it's safe and secure, which it appears to be, I haven't seen any broken windows, anything of the sort.
Utilities are shut off.
For the most part, the lawn is being maintained.
By people doing it out of the kindness of their heart, but it's being done.
However it's getting done, it's getting done.
I do the snow
Right.
blowing, so.
Yeah. So, you know, from that perspective, when those things become an issue, you know, otherwise, you know, code says it has to be, if it's vacant, then it has to be secured, you know, so that it doesn't become a public nuisance. You know, that's one, I would be, having received that, and you and I have talked about it a little bit, I'll put forth some effort to see if I can get a hold of the owner and find out what the intention is with the house. It's curious that there's some activity there recently. So, you know, see if we can find out. Anything else? On my summary page on the front, you'll notice I put down for training, I have, there's a mandatory training that I need to attend next month. We still don't know when the new code is going to come out, but we do have to attend this energy code update prior to the new code coming out and getting the new code update. So that's why I put that on there last minute. I actually, credit-wise, I have enough training for the year, but I need to get this one in. So.
Is this the big code you're talking about?
No, this would be the energy code. The energy code is a third of that size. Covers whatever changes there are for commercial and residential energy code.
Steve, is the fee, is that the entire amount of the
That is the
share?
entire, that's the entire amount.
Okay.
So it'd be $30 plus travel.
And we'll be able to split this with the
We split it, yes.
Make the motion that we allow Steve to go to the training.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And I thought I would give you a CRS update. I started working through this, getting involved in this CRS program. One of the things that has to happen, the board can do it tonight. I don't think we need to do it immediately because I've still got some homework to do. But we need a resolution that the village board agrees that we are going to enroll in the CRS.
Before you go any
Community
further,
rating system.
People don't know what
it'll go back away.
It's called
Yeah.
the community
Okay.
rating system,
Yeah.
which has to do with the flood insurance, everything. If you belong to, your community belongs to this community rating system, everything you do to help save with the flooding and everything. You get rated, you get points, and the more points you get, the lower the flood insurance is cost for the people that live here. So we're just trying to join this thing so we can do all these different actions that we have to do so we can save money for the public.
And at this point, we're still a year and a half from actually realizing those savings. It takes a while. It takes 2 to 4 months. Once we send them the information that we need to send them, it takes them 2 to 4 months to review it. Once it's reviewed, it's either they can notify the insurance companies either May 1st or October 1st, depending on where you fall in there. And then they have to have a minimum of 4 months heads up so that they can change their rates and make them effective on the next, with the next policy change.
Are those all insurance companies, or who gets notified?
Anybody that's writing NFIP flood insurance. So, yeah, it's, a year and a half process, from today's date at least. And there's a lot of homework that needs to be done in the process. Like I said, one of them would be a board resolution that the village wants to enroll in this. As part of that process, a letter signed by the mayor that we send to get enrolled. In the meantime, I say all of that because in the meantime, one of the pieces of that puzzle is what they call a quick checklist. It's the various categories that people commonly get, or municipalities commonly get credit in. And basically you go down through and you kind of assess where you are right now and take an educated guess at how many points you would get for those categories. At this point, haven't gotten completely through the list, but at this point I've got us at about 900, just under 900 points. So that would still be a class 9 with quite a bit more homework. I'm sure that we can get over 1,000 points, which would put us at a 10% discount. So that was kind of my goal from the get-go, was if we're going to enroll in this thing, we need to be at, we need to be shooting for 10%.
Is that the max, or is there stuff that you think the village could do that we haven't done?
There's a ton of stuff that the village probably could do. Something as simple as setting up, making it a policy, setting up a procedure for checking all of the drainages that we're responsible for. And if we had that, this is our policy, we're going to check them once a month or whatever it is, that however we set it up, and then we document that we're doing that, there's another 15, 20 points. So there's a ton of things that we can do. Something that I haven't dove into completely yet is all of the flood commission activities and how they dovetail into this, and I'm thinking that we can probably extract a whole bunch of points out of that.
Wow.
That whole process. So we're moving forward. I think I can sit here and confidently say today that we're gonna reach what was my goal of at least 10% once we get enrolled. So that would be a level 8.
And once you get involved and have a percentage assigned, or a level, then say we do something else. Are you, in the following years, you're able to do more?
Following years, you can do more. You're required to be. They do a check. FEMA does a check of your program every year. They'll send you a notice and say, we want to see X, Y, and Z documents. You have to put that packet together, send it off to them. They take a look at it, and then they show up here and take a look at all of your files. If, for instance, we get a bunch done on Water Street, and we're able to actually get the FEMA maps changed, which is kind of our goal here. Sure. For that. We get the maps changed, then that pulls a handful of properties on this end of the village out of harm's way. That would be cause for us to contact them and say, we got a major change here, come reevaluate us. So
good.
That's
Saving people
basically
a
the
lot of money
process.
This meeting.
That's the goal.
It doesn't always happen. Usually the flow's the other way.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
so, that's our goal. So, like I said, I've spent probably, the better part of this past month, just going through these different activities one by one and putting some of the simple stuff together and getting them in motion, getting the required books to the library. I mean, that's a simple thing, putting some handouts out in the lobby that people can come pick up. I mean, there's 2 points apiece, there's 6 easy points.
Is this specific to the village, or is the town involved as well?
I'm doing the same for the town.
Now, if the town does something that we haven't done, because the village is in the town, do we get credit for it, or do you have to?
No, that's a stretch, because a lot of it is based on...
It's a good idea,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
a stretch.
Well, one of the areas where that...
Did you?
Yeah.
Call that double dipping.
Yeah, one of the areas where that would work for us is because we have the 4-county library system. Okay, so if I put the books in there and make them available, now that they're available, you can kind of get double credit. The town or village, either way, vice versa. Everybody gets to get double credit because it's available to more than just one municipality. So, but you know, those are few and far between in this program. It's a tough program.
Sure.
It
Well,
is.
it probably should be. Well, I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they're going to be not charging you as much money, they want to be able to justify it. So. All right. Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve.
Number 4, next part is public input. If anyone would like to make a comment or say anything, it'll give you 5 minutes to get up and talk. Just raise your name, raise your hand, raise your name, raise your hand, raise your name, and we'll give you time to talk. Yes?
I remember a few years ago when John Clark was the deputy clerk. I seem to remember the board had agreed to send him to school for grant writing. Since John isn't here anymore, who is doing our grant writing?
Well, most of the grants, any kind of grants really that we're getting a hold of, pretty much is being done by Delaware Engineering or the plant, or they're the ones that are doing it for us. If there's any other grants that we come across that might be that we can get a hold of, then we'll look. We don't have a grant writer
They would be doing grants
for
for that particular reason or cause.
right. And if there's any Main Street grants or something like that, then I speak to Delaware Opportunities with Linda Hitt, and she usually helps us out with it. And if we have anything else that's pertaining, I'll speak to the planning department, and they always help us out with the grants too.
I have
County
been
plan.
watching the progress of Hancock.
Okay.
It is absolutely amazing, the transformation that has, positive transformation that has taken place in that village is just commendable. They got a grant and hired a marketing firm. And it is, as they say, being repetitive, amazing, the transformation. And I was wondering whether you have considered this.
Well, a lot of the new park area that they have over there, a lot of that was done with private money. There was some grant and there was some private money donations that were done with that. Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. When I call up and ask about some of the money that they got for other things, I was told, well, you got some money during the flooding, you got it for other ways, and they put it for different. We may have got money that was applied for flooding, where they got money that was applied for something else, but it might have come through the IDA, or it might have come from other things. So I don't know, we have to, I keep asking, if there's any money out there for us to go, we'll get it. We'll apply for it.
Well, this was for a professional marketing firm, and they did a darn good job.
No, they did.
But what did, Maureen, did you know, how did a marketing firm, how did that result in Hancock being a better place? And I'm not questioning, it's a
Right.
question, I'm not
Right.
questioning it.
I can't give you the specifics, but it would be interesting if we could, get some information from Hancock, what it cost and what were the benefits.
And what do you see as a change, a storefront improvement, or what's better about Hancock, I guess, specifically?
Well, if you had gone to Hancock a few years ago, and then you go to Hancock today, it's just an amazing transformation.
Like a visual impact?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I had called up the IDA about a couple months ago, the county IDA, and I said, gee, Hancock got all this money for everything, can we get some of that money? And they said, well, you got some of that money years ago, a couple of years ago, for flooding and other things, and they didn't get the money, so now they're getting money and they're using for this. And I said, well, I hear Margaretville's getting money, I mean, there's all these different places, well, they got money for flooding and other things too, and I said, well, it'd be nice for Walton to get involved in it. If I hear of anything, if anything comes up, I'll keep you involved. So I do ask. I call Delaware Operations a lot, ask them with any grant money out there. I look at all the flyers that come in that talk about what grants are available, and anything that could be pertaining to us, we try and get it. So, but I will call the mayor in Hancock and try and talk to him, see if there's any other contacts he may have. I have an advantage, I have the chief here that works also over there, he's the in for me. I'll ask him to put me out. Yeah, but it's a good idea. But I have been calling, it's just nothing has come out so far.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Keith Davis, I think most everybody knows me. I'm here. I was here at the last meeting, and I told you I'd be back, and I'm back. First of all, Ed, I want to thank you and Roger for taking care of those potholes by McDonald's, okay? They were done the next day. Good job.
To be honest, they were actually already scheduled to be done. It wasn't because they came to the meeting.
Okay, I just had to nail you.
But that's all right, but they were, I mean, we do it, it was just, Roger was busy doing other stuff that was way more important. Okay.
A couple things I've got tonight. One thing, we discussed FEMA. Do you have a number of how many additional properties were added to our flood map in this community by FEMA? The number of additional when they redid the flood map.
From when to when?
From whenever to whenever. When they redid this last flood map, how many additional properties were added?
Well, I'm trying to clarify because we have a new map pending as we speak.
And that'll be changed again and again and again by FEMA, well, I'm sure.
From the 91 map, no, check that. From the 2012 map to the proposed map, there are no changes.
No additional properties. That's what I'm asking. Not change, but additional properties.
No.
From 91 to today.
That would take a whole lot of research. I can find out, but it's going to be a while.
Okay. That's a good question to look at because that affects the property value of this community and everybody that owns a piece of property. If you're stuck in a flood zone, that affects the value of your property tremendously. I mean, it's great that we're working towards a 10% reduction on our flood insurance, but we're looking at a 25% per year. 10% won't amount to much, and especially if the federal government comes in and says, now, each year, you've got to meet this, you've got to meet that, you've got to meet this requirement. What's that going to cost us? Knowing the federal government or the state government will be a lot more than 10%. Just something to think about and consider before we jump into bed with the federal government.
Before you go any further on that, I'm thinking that all the properties would be on the map one way or the other. The only changes would have been if they changed the floodway to the floodplain, right? I mean, there's a difference between, if you're in a floodplain, it's one thing. If you're in a floodway, it's another thing.
But when they changed the map, didn't they add additional properties? Or everything is the same size today, only the difference is between
all the properties in the village are in.
I can't speak to that without having a 91 map and a 2012 map in front of me.
Well, Keith,
Just something you can think about.
Other than some of the stuff Ed's working with in concert with the Flood Commission, I mean, what can we do? I mean, if the map's the map and they base it on unfortunate history with Walton, and then we've got a bunch of stuff going on with Water Street and the river itself.
It's every community, not just Walton. I mean, all communities are going to be involved in this, I'm
Right.
sure. But I'm just saying that that's something to take into consideration for the value of this community as a whole, when if we've taken, instead of having 10% or 40% of the community in a flood zone, now we got 48% or 62% in a flood zone condition, which requires by federal law that you have to have flood insurance. Federal government dictates your premium, not your insurance agent. The federal government dictates what your premium is. They've already, I got letters from them already on mine, 25% per year. 5-6 years from now, I'd potentially be looking at $15,000, $16,000 a year on my dealership for flood insurance alone. And private homeowner, especially someone who's struggling to make their payments on their mortgage, is going to be dumped on top of it. And if it's 25% per year, you're looking at a lot of money. Just something to think about. That's
Keith, that's something I'm personally familiar with. When I did my house across the river, we had to have flood insurance. Now, Gregory family's lived over there since 1927, and we know the flood's never gotten up to that house. But FEMA said that we were in the floodplain. We had to do a certificate of elevation to prove that the new house was out of the floodplain, which we had known for years. So I know what you're saying on the folks downtown. It's going to cost them money if they want to sell a house.
That's right.
It's going to be.
And it affects the value.
It does.
Absolutely. Okay. I just wanted to bring that to your attention, kind of keep that in the back of your mind on any of these projects and whatever that the federal government's trying to push on us. Not that it's a good idea to do what we can to reduce flood insurance costs. Absolutely. My other thing, I brought 2 petitions to present to this board that I discussed at the last meeting. And it pertains to the fee, not the permit, not the inspection. Re-roofing of a building, whether it's your home or a business or an outbuilding, whatever, is a maintenance process. The same as painting your house to maintain it. Doing these permits was part of the code enforcement officer's job, which he's being paid to do. The other pertains to the fire safety and maintenance inspection, which I think I probably had the number of those wrong. Steve, about 158, 178, 168 total for this community. Inspections, fire and safety maintenance.
Per year?
Per year.
Probably, depending on the year, between 130 and 150.
Okay. And the requirement for businesses and multi-dwellings is every 3 years. Again, that's part of the responsibility and the job of a code enforcement officer, which as business people and residents of this community, we're already paying for. I look at that as being another tax. Dave, I give you credit. You questioned it back on March 3rd, February 3rd meeting, in a March meeting. And the May meeting where you passed this, the fees, which was sort of a public meeting or whatever, you had nobody attend. Obviously nobody heard about it, knew about it, or whatever, so they didn't come.
But before you go any further,
Okay.
it was in the Reporter, it was on the radio,
How big?
we mentioned at the meeting,
Plenty big.
That big?
Same as
Big?
every
Plenty
other.
big?
not like anybody else, and it was on the video. So
Okay.
we've had 3 different avenues where everybody could see it.
Okay.
So it's not that you insinuate that we're hiding it,
No,
and we
no, no.
passed it.
No, no,
Well,
no.
yes, you are. But that's
No,
what
I'm
you
not.
said.
No, I'm not.
No one was there, and
I said
we
no
put it
one-
up.
No one showed up.
Well, that's because they knew about it. We've been talking about this for quite a long time.
I spent a few minutes
Okay.
the last week or so walking up and down Delaware Street, when I had time, or at the coffee shop, sitting down having a cup of coffee, and someone come in that I knew owned property in the village, and I said, listen, what do you think about this? Would you be interested in signing a petition? I want to give you the names and those petitions. And we have some more. And, I mean, I don't have time to do this in the first place. But those are the responses that I've got. Plus, I've got a fairly decent turnout here tonight. I don't have a problem with the permit being issued. I have no problem with the inspection. Gary McGravy used to do them all the time. Never had a problem. I have a problem with the fee. About 3 years ago, before this board, I came before this board, I was here that night of the meeting, and they withdrew the option to impose a fee to inspect, to do the inspections. Years before that, when Carl Vogel was mayor, I was on the planning board and the discussion on re-roofing. I'm not talking about construction. I'm talking about re-roofing your home, which is maintenance. To re-roof your home. Charlie, you don't have to worry about it because yours is good for 30 years, okay? I had to do mine a couple of years ago. There's other people here that's had to have theirs done, and there's people that are going to have it done. If we want to maintain, and your last board meeting, you had some people here really promoting Walton pride and people taking care of their properties. The most important thing about any property is the roof. I don't feel it's right that this board should be imposing a charge on top of the taxes that we're already paying for a fee to maintain my building. And I hope this board seriously considers withdrawing those fees, both for I'm not talking about construction, I'm talking about re-roofing and also the inspection. It's not a lot of money, but it's the principle.
Let me go back, but, and just sort of, and it's not, well, it's about you, but not just about you. Part of the problem the board has, and it's not just this issue, it's anything that comes along, whether it's carrying doggy bags and leash laws or whatever it might be, is an issue comes up and the discussion is videotaped, it's reported on, and then we're gonna have a public hearing, public input, and it's in the reporter, it's videotaped, it's talked about, it's in the news, you know. Nobody ever shows up. We take that for what it is, we take action, vote the way we feel, and then all the opposition comes in. Well, and that happens more often than it should, I'll leave it at that. And it's you know, we're not here twiddling our thumbs, and we have committee meetings that people don't even know about, and it's just, it's sort of, this is not specific to you, and it is sure not specific to this issue, because it happens all the time. When's the last time we had something? I've been on the board several times, and it's goes back 30 years. Whether it's human nature or what, it's
and it is.
You know,
but to respond to you on that, Tink's retired, you're retired, Charlie's retired, you're retired. Nobody took a few minutes to walk downtown or go to the coffee shop and say, gee, you have a house, do you have to put a roof on that in the next 2 or 3 or 5 years? Would you feel comfortable paying a fee to re-roof, to maintain your home?
I'd rather pay for my fee for my house than to pay your fee for yours.
But you already are, and I'm paying for yours through my taxes. I'm talking about the fee for the permit, okay? That's part of our taxes, and it is a tax. You can call it a fee if you want, but it's a tax. So it's not like having your car inspected. Somebody owns a car, that's a little different deal, because nobody else is paying on that car. This we're paying on to pay somebody to do that job.
Mr. Mayor, may I take this one on?
Well, I don't,
that's, you know, and I think the response of most businesses and people feel the same way.
let's, there are other people here, I don't know if anyone else wants to say anything about the same subject.
I think that, you know, the fee for my building would cost me $5,000 to roof my building, which is the second, probably the second or third largest business in Delaware County or in Walton. You know, we probably have 75 people that work there. I can't afford the $5,000 to pay for the permit, much less to roof it. I would like to roof my building. But something like that goes a little bit overboard. I mean, I do have, like I said, it's the second biggest or the first biggest building in this village here. And it goes a little bit overboard. You know, like I said, I couldn't afford to pay that permit, much less the contractor to do it right now. But it is putting an unnecessary burden on business owners for bigger buildings. You know, like I said, if Kraft had to do their building, $5,000 for a permit, I think that's going a little overboard. They could say, well, we can move for $250,000 maybe, you know.
Okay. Anyone else like to talk on that particular, those subjects at all? Before I have
just like to say,
yeah.
when you say not many people show up, or you put it in the paper, a lot of businesses don't want to get involved for various reasons. They just don't want to get involved or say something or speak out.
That's too bad, because I'd like to hear them.
Well, they don't dare. They're afraid there's retribution or stuff going to go on.
There's no retribution here. I mean,
you say that, a lot of people say that, but that's not how people think. You talk to some business owners, as I do, right there, and I'll tell you what, that's how they feel.
Well, I mean, I've been on this board here for 10 years, and Keith and I have gone back and forth more than one time on different issues, and I don't hate him anymore. No, no, we get along, we kid around and everything. I respect everybody's position, you know what I mean? It doesn't, you know, we don't take it personal. I don't anyway.
Well, I say you don't take it personal, but that's not how some of the business owners take it.
Well, then that's
okay.
their problem, really.
We don't.
Give us
That's
some
their
examples.
perspective.
That's their problem.
That's
That's
their
the village's
perspective.
problem.
We don't take
That's
it
the
personal.
problem.
We don't take it personal.
You say you don't.
We don't.
That's
I
not
mean,
how
there's
people
nothing
think.
been done, that anybody could show anything that was been done as retribution or anything against anybody for them taking a stand? No. I mean, Keith is the first one. I asked if he gets a
Well, you
problem
think
with
they come
flooding.
forward to do it against, and get some more retribution if they did? That's not how it
What
works.
retribution are you speaking of?
I don't know
Be
anybody that ever had any
specific.
retribution.
Be
Do you know of
specific,
anybody that had
please.
retribution from a board?
I'm just telling you how a
What
lot
they
of
say.
people say,
Well,
what they say, okay?
But what is the retribution that they're so frightened of?
What the board could do to them, or the village, or
What could we do to them?
from, well, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I guess
I would
you
be
need to bring
surprised.
us some specifics,
I
because we
would-
have no
I'm
idea
just
what you're
letting you know
talking
how a
Yeah,
lot
no.
of business owners feel, okay? That's why they don't get involved or show up.
I spoke up.
You don't think I'm telling the truth?
I mean,
talk to a lot of people.
I'm just asking for specifics,
Right,
because I don't know what you're talking about.
Why don't you get more involved? They go, well, you know, we just don't want to put it that way, you know.
Well,
they
that's
don't
a whole
wanna
different
speak about
story.
it.
That's a different story, okay. That I understand, that's just apathy, and I understand that.
Well,
But
I spoke up
retribution,
here a few years ago when Tink was on the board, and I think you were on the board, about the village police, and Mr. Lauser almost punched me out upstairs, okay? For my son getting arrested in my own building. It cost me $5,000 for a lawyer, okay? And we had a judge that was the police chief's son, okay? This is retribution that I got in this village by speaking out in front of this courtroom, okay? You all weren't here, some of you were. I got retribution, okay? The county DA hired a special prosecutor to prosecute my son in my own building where he was guaranteed to be there 24 hours a day. He was on the first to call list. That was retribution I had for speaking at this board in front of the police chief, okay? This happened just recently, 2 years ago. It cost me $5,000 in a business, and I don't want to pay $5,000 to permit for a roof because this is absurd. I should just close my business and move out. And I probably have one of the busiest businesses in this village. And yes, I did get retribution. Yes, I did.
And you want me to tell you the retribution I got? I don't know where it come from. I showed up to a meeting here, 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks. DEC drove from Albany down and inspected my shop and went through it illegally, I was told, after I went to a few meetings and stuff. But
Really?
do I know where it come from? Not for sure. But I was here at a meeting, spoke up on some stuff, and less than 3 weeks, DEC was in my shop going all through. I said, what are you doing? Oh, we're here to inspect your shop. I go, my shop only? You come right here? Yeah. I go, what about the rest of the shops? And I could have thrown probably 7 shops underneath the bus. I didn't say a word. I said, okay. So they come in, wrote me up for some bullshit, and then when I went to a DEC meeting, they wanted to know that lady's name, why the hell she was in my place, and what was going on. But that was some retribution. but it just happened to be after I was in a meeting here. with
Well,
a few people.
I mean,
Yeah, well.
it shouldn't be, I don't think there's anybody on the board at any level right now that.
Well, it's
would-
not only board members that come here. You know what I mean?
Right.
There could be state, county, lots of people that come here. So
But
I'm
you're-
just telling you, that's a lot of reason people don't show up.
So what
whether
would,
you
what
believe
would
it or
you,
not.
what would you suggest? That's an honest question, what would you suggest?
Guys like Keith going around getting people's names so they don't have to show up here and deal with it, I guess.
Another alternative is folks can always send an anonymous letter with facts that I feel out.
But I'm just telling you the reason a lot of people
Yeah.
don't
Sure,
show
and
up.
that's what we need to
Here's
hear.
two guys standing here with proof.
And I
Well,
got $5,000 on mine.
What's that?
That's coincidental.
You asked me for proof, it wasn't just coincidental.
Well, I'm just saying, I wouldn't consider that proof. It may in fact be the case, but that's, you know.
Coincidence. There we go.
I didn't say it.
Draw the hand.
We can say point well taken. How's that?
The only thing I can say is the more business people that come here and actually say what they want to say, it sure helps me as far as making up my mind one way or the other. I can't, you know?
It's always
Just letting
harder
you know,
to.
when you say, you announce it, this and then nobody shows, but I talk to a lot of people and.
I'm not disputing what you're saying, it
Right.
may be true, you know, but I can only speak for myself.
Right.
This is my 10th year of being mayor, and that's never happened since I've been mayor, and any of the board members. And if it did, and I found out there'd be a big hell to pay, because I won't put up with that. That's dishonest, I wouldn't, but I'm not saying it didn't happen.
And as a
Obviously,
board
you-
member, I think as a board as a whole, it's always easier, if we get enough input, to not do something in the first place than it is to not get any input, take our best guess, pass whatever it is we're passing, and then a month or two later, hear this uproar of activity that could have come in when the issue was first being proposed. Do you know what I mean?
I know where you're coming from, Dave, but at the same time, as a business owner and other businesses, we're working as hard as we can to try to keep our businesses afloat in this community. And whether you know it or not, the economy in Walton, New York sucks. It's terrible. Our employment is down. We've lost manufacturing. Delmet's gone, Bailey's is gone, the Reporter Company's gone. Nothing has come in to replace that. That job opportunity to create a good income. The only thing we do have is a lot of government income, which they make pretty good money, but a lot of that money goes out of this community and doesn't stay. And if we speak out at any of those meetings, believe me, and I know this for a fact, I pay for that. I've gone to school board meetings and spoke out. I pay for that. And I could name names if you want me to, but I'm not gonna. That I've paid dearly for business, from a business standpoint. And a lot of other businesses feel the same way.
And I've been here, what, 2 years now, whatever, with this board, and I don't, and the mayor and the clerk and I think if any board member, individually or as a group, heard the kind of stuff you're talking, and say there was something to it, we'd do what we would need to do to make sure it didn't happen.
Let me suggest one thing to this whole board. When you have an issue like this, that you're going to impose another fee, a tax, a whatever, or an issue of any kind, and all of you, I'm sure, go downtown from time to time, we'll stop in and ask people about it. Say, listen, we're thinking about having a meeting on this, and it's been discussed at 2 or 3 meetings, which it was. I went back and looked at the video of your meetings, when they were proposed, who proposed it, and whatever. Did I before? No. I mean, I got enough things on my mind to worry about trying to keep my business going for as long as I can. So I don't come to the meetings anymore. I used to come to almost every meeting,
I know.
remember?
It was good when you did.
And I don't, to give you a business perspective of issues that you're talking about. I found that on the planning board. When I was on the planning board, at that time I was the only business person on that board, and my perspective was quite often different from theirs, okay? But I guess my suggestion to you, all of you, is when you have an issue, maybe take a minute and stop in and say, hey, listen, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think?
Bring us some donuts.
Bring us some donuts. Okay, and I think a lot of this problem would be eliminated.
And like I said,
Or
it's a
help to
point
make a decision.
extremely well made, and it's up to us to follow up. The other side of it is, the business owners don't have time to come into a public hearing, and yet, as soon as we pass something that you don't, after the fact, people have time to come in.
If we knew it, I want to tell you, I told you the last meeting, I said, if I knew you were having a meeting on that back in May, when you voted on it, believe me, I'd have been here, because I was involved in both of these issues in the first place, okay?
Right.
So, if I'd have known it, if you happened to walk by and say, hey, Keith, by the way, we're discussing a fee on this and this and this, what do you think?
That's a nice thing to do, and it's a good point, well made and hopefully well taken here. But the fact is, we've got a paper that advertises it, it's videotaped, it's on the radio, and it's an open meeting.
I know.
The obligation's been met.
I know.
Well, I'm not suggesting for a second that it's not probably a profoundly overdue idea to just hit the street on occasion, whether there's an issue in front of us or not.
Direct face-to-face. I run ads all the time.
For sure.
But you know what? People go out of town and buy a car.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I had an ad on the radio, I had an ad in the paper. I had the same car. What'd you go way over to Sydney or Oneonta or whatever to buy that same car?
Sure.
Doesn't necessarily mean people are going to see it, read it, or hear it. But if I happen to say, gee, I see you driving that car that's 5 years old. I got one that's newer, nicer, low mileage. Would you be interested? Come and see me. Keep the business local. The eye-to-eye direct contact is so important. And it wouldn't take a lot of time or a lot of conversation with people who will be affected to just get a quick opinion.
Let me endorse what you're saying. It's happening right now.
Yeah.
Keith, can I give you an example of where we have done that? It was about 2-3 months ago. We started hearing complaints about stuff being put out on the sidewalk, blocking the sidewalk, blocking vision. I did just what you said. I walked up and down the street talking to different people. You had already come to one of the meetings and expressed your opinion, so that's why I didn't come to your house, your business. But yeah, I talked to Breakies and the Gold Shop, just every Ponds, the antique stores, door to door, just what do you think? So we've done that before.
Yeah. And the sidewalks weren't blocked. Sidewalks weren't blocked. My wife walks every day.
Yeah.
And she does not have a problem walking up and down the sidewalks. When you got 8-foot sidewalks, 4 foot of it happens to have some whatever display, you have 4 feet to walk by it. I'm sorry. I got to disagree with this board if you really think that that's been a problem, because it hasn't been.
But talking to people in the village, there are people who feel it is a problem. So you see, what you're saying is when you talk face to face, you got to realize that, I mean, you're a strong personality, and
when you walk down the street,
let me speak, please.
Did that give you a problem?
May I finish?
Finish.
Thank you. When you talk to people, you get different opinions. Now, you're very strong and forceful people, and the petition you passed, of course. But we also hear from people who don't like it, who feel that it's crowded, it's cluttered, they have a hard time getting strollers or whatever passed. So just because the people that you talk to say it's okay, we talk to lots of people, and other people say it's not. So we have to listen to everybody in the village. So that's
to every story.
That's right.
I just have one more thing to say. My brother has a house for sale, and it fell right through when they found out about the flood insurance. That's going to be a big deal. And it felt like that. When they heard the price of that, they said, that's it.
I think it's got everybody concerned.
Mr. Mayor, if there are two things at hand that we brought up, the fire inspection fees and the roofing, and I think I can maybe, especially the folks that are watching this over the internet. So some background. Walton's not the only community that charges fees for fire inspection. Delhi, Deposit, Hancock, Hobart, Margaretville, all of those communities add a fire inspection fee to their taxes, to the village taxes. When we looked at the fees and redoing the fees, one of the things we considered is that's not really fair to the people that don't use that service. And as Keith mentioned, Private residences don't have to have fire inspections. The state code doesn't require it to be done, and we don't inspect them. Sydney, they charge for their inspections, but separate from the taxes. Now, Roxbury and Stanford, they hire a private company to come in and do their inspections. So we have our code enforcement officer do it. So we're not the only ones that do this. When we looked at the fees, we looked at Colchester, Sydney, and Delhi to see what they had, and we used that as a reference in trying to come up with the rates. Our goal, again, is to keep, folks in New York and Walton especially, we know how high taxes are throughout the state. Folks are getting beat to death. When they see taxes come out for property taxes, and if other communities are lower, they're going to start asking, well, why is this community lower than mine? With that in mind, we tried to keep taxes down. And one of the ways we did it was to, and still be able to meet the needs of the community. One of the ways you tried to do that was, as you say, targeting the fees for those who use it. So in particular, for the fire insurance, and it's kind of like, I guess, one of the fees we have is if you're going to have an above-ground swimming pool, there's a $35 inspection fee for that. Not everybody has to have a swimming pool, but if they choose to, that's part of the fee that comes into it. Personal residences are not inspected for fire. That's a given. But you're right. Multifamily and commercial facilities, every 3 years, that's $40 for an inspection. And places of assembly, and that's defined as commercial property with 50 or more people ascending, that's $25. Every 3 years for the multi-family and the commercial facilities, and once a year for the places of assembly. Again, state code requires that we do those inspections. This is a way of, instead of raising everybody's taxes when they're not going to benefit from those services, assigning those who use the service will pay for it. So yes, it does mean that people that own multi-family dwellings and commercial properties, yes. As far as the roof, and it's been compared to painting, well, and again, digging into the way the state, because we have to enforce the state code, and the way they define the difference between, the state differentiates, the state code does, categorizes re-roofing as a level 1 alteration, and that requires a permit. As opposed to painting and things like that, that's repairs, which doesn't require a permit. Again, trying to target those who use the service, the inspection service for the roofing. That's where we put the fee on those that did it. But realizing that some roofs are bigger than others. Some people own big houses, some people own small houses. So instead of assigning a flat rate to that, our intention was to, those who own a big house and have a big roof will pay more. Those who have a small house, a small roof, will pay less. And that's why instead of going with a flat rate for every inspection, we want the square footage so that folks living in a smaller home aren't paying the same as the White House and the huge roof down there. So that's kind of, we wanted to make it fair for everybody. Those who use the service pay for it, and trying to balance property taxes, which we, yes, you're right. Some of what we use, the fee money, that is money that we didn't have to raise our taxes on. But so bottom line is, our intent was to try to make it fair for everybody in the community so that when their tax time comes, we can keep the taxes as low as possible, yet still meet the needs and requirements of the community as we try to grow.
I just think, do you think that for me as a small business owner should be paying $5,000 to re-roof my building? That's what I'm saying, there should be a cap somewhere. No, and not only that, but I built a new building, a commercial strip on West Street there. And that building, if I was to re-roof that, it would cost me $500. And that is normal maintenance, you know. The thing is, what I'm saying is, should there be a cap somewhere at maybe 200? I don't know how much Steve would have to go to look at a roof. I know you'd have to see if maybe there's 3 levels or something on there. but a $5,000 fee is a little bit overboard for me, for my business, for this village, for my amount of business I do in this village. And it is a big building, but, you know, I just think it's a little overboard to have way over there, way overboard.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, we'll consider that.
I think that's what you're saying is a valid point. Me personally, I mean, I'm only speaking for myself, I would agree with you on that. I would think that that is a large amount for, you know, there should be some, if it was me, I would think some kind of cap would be more than fair. That is quite high to have permit, for me personally, but.
I can't disagree with them. You know?
No, I mean, whatever the number could come up with, it could be, you know, whether if it's 500 for this or 200 for that size or whatever, then that would be a little bit more fairer. I see your point on that. I'm only speaking for me, so.
If I may, well, I'll take that on as an action with the Code Enforcement Committee. We'll look at the impact, both on the budget and on the community, and come back with a proposal with pros and cons.
I hope this board really seriously takes as serious the petitions that I have presented to this board tonight to eliminate those fees on a re-roof and also the inspections. I don't care what Downsville does or Sydney does or Oneonta does or Albany does. I don't pay taxes up there. I pay state taxes, unfortunately we all do. But this affects my community where I make a living, where I pay taxes, and that's why. I didn't go out in the town and try to get signatures. If I did, I could have filled 10
No, but
sheets.
I think you're seeing us do something we don't usually do, and we had our public hearing, you know, after it was advertised, et cetera, passed what we thought seemed fair and legitimate with lack of input after the thing was advertised, and you're hearing Charlie say we'll take a look at it. And it's not just lip service, and you're hearing the mayor and at least a couple of board members say, you know, $5,000 for a permit fee or inspection fee may in fact be a bit high, and a cap sounds like a good idea. There's not going to be any retribution for that, you know.
I'll still say a lot. Listen, also, I mean, I want to understand with our code enforcement. You've lived here for quite a long time, and probably most of you have lived here most of your lives. When I first took over, 12 years ago, we had a full-time code enforcement officer. Full-time, you mentioned Gary McGravey was the last, well, he wasn't the last, but he was there. We had a full-time code enforcement officer, put in 40 hours a week. They got medical benefits, they got all the days off, got all the retirement, pension, got the whole thing. And we got hit with the flood, things got bad, and myself and the board reacted to that. And we said, no more. We stopped having a full-time code, we cut the salary right in half. We have a part-time code guy for here, no benefits, no time off, no retirement, nothing as far as the village goes. So we do listen, we do take action. So I know that you mentioned a few times, well, we pay for the code guy and he gets, well, you don't pay like you did before, because we reduced that so that we were trying to save money for the taxpayer. So just hear that too and take it in also. Me personally, I hear you more on the roof thing, on the inspection, that fire inspections that come down from the state. It's $13 a year, and I know you say, yeah, it's a tax as far as you're concerned, but we get more unfunded mandates from the state than we've ever had before, and we were mandated to do them. So if it's taking more time and it's going to cost us money, what do we do? What's the answer? I mean, we obviously don't have a full-time guy. Do we raise taxes up so everybody pays for the inspections? I mean, does everybody else should pay for what? You know, I'm just saying, there comes a point where we only have X amount of dollars to go around in the pot, and everything going up. We can't cut any more than we've cut. We got a half-time, part-time code guy. We've cut our DPW to the half. It used to be 14, we got 7 now. Police department, we got 4 right now, we're down 2 guys from there. So we're at minimum staffing. Nobody's got a raise here for years and years and years. We've held back all our contracts as much as we can. So we've really squeezed the apple pretty tight to get all the juice we can out of it. So, I mean, we all work in it. It's not that we're an exorbitant board and say, let's just go out and spend, because we don't. We hear the public and we understand what you're saying. That's all I have to say as far as that. But we will discuss it. We are hearing you. We do know there's petitions and you have
Thanks for the time you spent getting, so, I mean, that's obviously you caught a rear.
I didn't have a lot of time. If I had really the time to do it, and I spent 3 months doing it, I would have probably 50 pages full or whatever, I don't know, signatures. And I know where you're coming from on meetings. I know people don't come to the chamber. We've asked and asked and asked. We even offered prize money for people to come to the meeting, and we don't get participation either. And we do get flack sometimes on things that we do that well, you should have done it this way, or you shouldn't have done that, or whatever, after the fact.
That's human nature.
And you're right, Ed, it is, it's human nature. And I mean, unfortunately, I didn't hear about this, and if I had, like I told you, believe me, I would have been here. But to give you some input back when you were discussing this before it went through. And like I say, my only suggestion to you is, from now on an issue, try to get the word out on a one-on-one basis on the street and get a little input and get people talking about it.
It sounds like all we need to do is let you know when you're...
He meant that in a good way. No,
I did.
These are 2 issues that I was involved in before, and that's the reason I followed up on it and came before this board. And I speak up when I see something. I mean, does it come back and bite me sometimes? Sure it does. But if I've got something to say on an issue, nothing to do with anybody personally or anything, it pertains to an issue, I'll speak out. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong, and I'll change my mind.
Sure.
But I don't think I'm wrong in this, and when the number of people that I had sign those petitions reinforces my position on this even stronger than even before when I was involved in it. So,
okay.
I'll leave it in your hands.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Somebody else has something to
Just
add.
one last question, Keith. Do you know roughly how many people signed the petitions?
I don't. I didn't add them up. I tried to make
About
copies
50 or
of them,
60.
whatever. But
And-
About 50 or 60.
Make some
And
copies.
not all of them are village residents. There are some in there that are town residents.
Well, some of them live in the town, but they may have property in the village.
Oh, they want
Okay,
property owners, is
so
that what you're saying?
I
Okay.
tried to keep, they had to be a property owner in
Okay.
the village, had to be a
Okay.
village taxpayer or whatever.
I just know it's a couple of them that I...
Yeah, okay.
Just
All
so,
right.
okay.
Yep.
And you're right, but I mean, just realize that, I mean, thinking about it, we have over 3,000 people that live here in the village. We have over 1,700 registered voters in the village. And yeah, 40 petitions or 50 or 60 is a lot, but where's the other
It's probably more than the
1,700?
vote.
There was one last time we voted, only 45 people showed up. I mean, really? I mean, you complain about everything, but you don't even go up to vote. So I mean,
It's horrible. I know,
it is. I understand.
It is.
It's tough. Okay.
So if one of us needs a campaign manager, you know where we're going.
Okay, point is well taken. Thank you very much for taking. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to? Yes, sir. Louis.
Mr. Banker, I'm new in the village tax paying base.
Okay.
I would like to find out or clarify that I was told earlier in the year that property on Delaware Street is taxed more than any other property. Is that true?
It's all based
On
on
the
assessment.
assessed value.
So,
Whatever the assessed value on, Mark Jacobs would be a better guy to ask you than.
well, that's the one that told me that assessments on Delaware Street are assessed higher than anywhere else.
See, I don't know, but I should assume, when you say you assume,
And
you
he told me that was the
do.
forefathers that decided that, I'm assuming you find people now are the new forefathers.
Well, that doesn't make sense to me. I mean,
It didn't to me either,
No, I
that's why I'm
understand,
bringing it
because
up.
my understanding of how taxes was, it goes by the square footage and the size, and that's how they figure it out, so I
Just
will,
a for
I will,
instance,
I
I'll give
will
you a
speak
for
to Mark
instance, 'cause
Jacobs about it.
I want to finish.
Okay,
You know my lot at 141
Yep.
Delaware is a gravel lot, we'll call it.
yep,
compared to the bank's parking lot that is exactly twice the size, an improved blacktop lot, and they're paying less in taxes, they're assessed less and paying less in taxes.
And did
A
you?
lot less.
You brought that up to Mark?
Yes,
And what did he say? That was his
I live
answer,
on
you live
Delaware
on Delaware Street?
yes,
Has it been reassessed with
yes,
as
Yes.
an empty lot?
yes.
There's an appeal process. I mean, I don't know anything about, this isn't the sort of thing that, I don't mean your situation, but the assessments doesn't really come under us, but I know there's a deadline by which you can appeal.
Well, there is
you
March,
know.
whatever, all that, but then he told me it was the forefathers years ago that the village board, that adopted that Delaware Street should be taxed more than anywhere else, so that's why I'm.
Wow, that should be, then that should be in writing someplace, then, if that's
And-
something,
No, I mean,
Doesn't make
This March,
sense
I
to
will
me.
go ahead and,
yeah.
by forefathers, I mean, he may have meant the 1800s. or something.
exactly,
I mean,
but
literally.
where Delaware
right?
Street actually had traffic.
Yeah,
Foot traffic,
yeah.
we'll call it, foot traffic, not
Sure.
traffic.
Louis, I'll tell you this much, I will definitely call Mark Jacobs tomorrow and speak to him on it, and if he tells me the same thing, I will say, show me where this is in writing and who approved it, and we'll look into it, because it's the first of me that I remember hearing something like this, and I will
surprised when I
definitely
heard
get to
it,
the
but I figured,
I will get to the
okay,
bottom of it, and I will call you back and
Have
let you
better
know.
property on Delaware Street
I
than
mean, I think
anywhere else.
the last thing we want right now with the kind of stuff, I don't mean your signatures, I mean when you're talking about the economy, is to be taxing Delaware Street properties artificially.
More when the flood insurance is already through the
Yeah.
roof.
You know.
It's my understanding they're gonna be doing a full reassessment of the properties within the next year, I think. I was up talking to Mark about that, he had mentioned that.
Yeah, they are, that's a whole different, that's another thing that people gotta be upfront about. I know that the town wants to do a full reassessment of all the properties. So it's going to affect those who've had older houses and haven't been updated in a long time, they gotta be in for a shock, I think. Me too, I'm number one, I got a big house, so I'm sure I will. And others that pay a lot now might get a little reduction, so but it'll take 2 years before the whole thing is actually on paper and it's gonna affect us. But they're talking about doing that next year. I already spoke to Mark about it, asked him to give me, we'll sit down with him and understand the process, how it works, what goes on, so that I can explain to everybody, so everybody's aware of what's going on and why and how come, and I'll keep you informed as it goes along. Anyone else? I will call you back on that, Lou. Anyone else have anything you want to say? Okay. Trustee reports. Thank you, Keith, by the way.
I'll be back.
Why not you will? I'll be here.
Now
Hopefully I'll be here.
that's not news, Keith.
I'll be here.
Follow-up.
I'll
Is
be
that
here.
a threat or a promise?
Yes.
Both. All right, we'll go to trustee reports. We'll start with Tink today. You got anything, Tink?
No, as far as Department of Public Works, I just wanted to let everybody know the storm sewer on Munn Street and West Street is proposed for work this month. But there has been a lot of things that have been completed, especially the 30-inch storm sewer pipe over near the fairground.
Yeah.
That's been completed, and that was with the help of the town.
That's good.
And of course, we finished leaf pickup, so. And all the other is just the familiar things that we do every month as far as DPW.
Tink, how has that new truck worked out? This is the first season that we've really had it for the leaf pickup.
Excellent.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Excellent.
Okay. Dave, you have anything?
Well, just the Pride Committee update is, I mean, this thing has really taken off. After a slow start, I mean, I'll talk about the last meeting, and it's already somewhat out of date. I think, at the risk of redundancy, the Facebook, the Pride Committee, Pride in Walton Committee's Facebook page is probably your best source of current information. Spend a Day in Walton, and the Christmas parade was last Saturday. Molly Oliver, the county planner, that is right now sort of pulling off each meeting, coordinating each meeting, is working on they're calling it a boast and toast at Feather and Stone, possibly. and it's a county business mixer, and we're hoping to, she's checking into being able to tie into that as sort of a, and then have the Walton Pride Committee tie in with the business community locally in the village and spin off a comparable group where the business community would be sort of not stepping on the toes of the Chamber of Commerce, but working in concert with a slightly different slant or purpose. The details to follow. The guardrails by Ace Hardware have been primed. They look great, but they need a finish coat. We'll do that, pick up on that in the spring. Molly is looking into some grants and some micro grants to do different things in the village that she's aware of, that either materials or labor. Facebook I mentioned, property of the month sign update. They're looking at completing that sign in the spring, so they're going to push that a few months ahead now. There are 4 or 5 storefronts downtown that are going to have Christmas scenes painted on their windows. And Maureen loaned the, what's it called, Studio 56?
Department 56 Village.
Department 56 Village. It's impressive. Jen Fay helped set it up. It's by the Chinese, it's west of the Chinese. What building is it in, Maureen?
It's right next to Full Circle, across from Tony's Shoe Store.
Okay.
Holmes' old building.
And it's a 2 or 3 tiered village setting, and it's impressive. It almost should be a centerpiece. It's more impressive than I thought it was going to be from hearing you talk about it. But well done, but it's worth a walk to see the place.
It's a 20-year collection, Dave.
Yeah, and it looks it. It's impressive. Jen Healy is going to be organizing a penny social for a fundraiser in the spring. And they're looking at a cleanup project of some sort closer to spring. The meetings are the 2nd and 4th Thursday of the month, 6:30 here. But we've got this, there was a conflict with the schedules, and the next meeting is not going to be December 11th. It will be
18th.
The December 18th, 6 p.m., not 6:30, at Feather and Stone. And then they'll go back to the regular schedule. So the next meeting will not be December 11th. It will instead be December 18th, 6 p.m., not 6:30, at Feather and Stone. And we're still looking for all the members we can get, although the attendance is running 14, 15, 16 people or more at each group. And we've really got some traction at this point. It's a good group. That's it.
Holly?
First of all, I think we all ought to let Patty Wood know how much we appreciate all she did for pulling off the Christmas parade the other night. It was a terrific turnout throughout the village. It's been a long time since I've had to struggle to find a parking space in Walton. It was a lot of fun. It was weather's a bit more hospitable this time, so it's pretty good of her to all the efforts she did to play that. And with Trout Creek and the fire department and the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and all sorts of groups attending, that was terrific. And the tree that the Chamber of Commerce did, putting lights up, beautiful lights. The lights worked this year. Thank you.
And have you noticed how lovely the tree looks this year, dressed in all new lights?
Yeah. I have one thing from the theater. The stone, as you saw, the stonework's been done on the stairs, but the railings are kind of shaky, and I'd like to go ahead and replace those. They've gone out for bids, and they had 2 bids. One bid is for $1,000, and that will replace the railing as you go into the theater. So I would move that we authorize the purchase payment for the work, and the clerk has a copy of the...
We had, just don't forget, not to interject, we had 2 bids.
Yes.
Both bids were $1,000. The difference being that one of the bids, the guy was in Syracuse, the guy said you have to go down and pick them up and bring them here. He wouldn't deliver them for us. And the other bid said they would deliver them and install them for us. So that would be the, how do you pronounce that one? I don't know what you call it.
Titchener Ironworks
Titchener.
out of Binghamton. So I move that we authorize payment to $1,000 for plus tax, $1,000 plus taxes if required. It shouldn't be. Okay, $1,000 for the railing work in the theater from Titchener Ironworks.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Charlie.
And I don't have anything, the chief took care of everything in his appearance here.
Okay, myself, the only thing I just want to say, again, Chamber, thank you very much. All the members, the day in Walton was a huge success. It really went well. A lot of people liked all the activities. The businesses gave some nice discounts. I heard a lot of nice pleasant things, so good work by everybody. And of course, Patty did a good thing by organizing at night. And one other thing, I just want to let you know, we were talking earlier about this MBT project down at the wastewater treatment plant that John was talking about. Things like this, what we're able to do, because of things like this, we were able to reduce the personnel down there by 1. So we're saving $45,000, plus everything else involved in it. So this is the outcome of doing things when we're saving and cutting back. We need less manpower, so it helps us with the budget. And that's going to be a reflection on the wastewater treatment plant budget, just so you know. And that's about all I have right now. I'm pleased with the village is we're doing well financially. I just want to keep mentioning it up to let everybody know that we're in pretty good shape. We still, of all the properties that we had for taxes, there's still only 2 left that didn't pay up on the taxes. And the lawyer is working on that now. But all the rest of the taxes were covered. We're waiting to get results back on our audit from the Inc., but I think our audit this year is going to be very good. We're pretty much back to where we were a few years ago, so I'm pleased with that. I think everybody's worked pretty well together, between Jody, Misty, and the board, so we're good that way. And as soon as we get this wastewater, and aerobic digester done, then we should, God willing, we should be really well off, pretty good in the village, so finance-wise. That's all I have. If nothing else, we don't need no executive session. I need a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.